Remember the Keystone XL pipeline? You heard a lot about it. It garnered a lot of headlines and a lot of attention. And when Joe Biden became president, one of his first acts in the Oval Office was to kill the Keystone XL pipeline. Well, Donald Trump, as president, didn't have a problem with it. And could that pipeline be making a comeback? Hello, everyone. I'm Adrienne Batra. With me are Lorrie Goldstein and Brian Lilley. So, Brian, the Keystone XL pipeline has does it have a moment to be resurrected?
Yes and no. So a lot of the Keystone pipeline, Keystone XL pipeline in Canada already exists. So Keystone pipeline is a whole network of pipelines that already runs. Keystone XL was supposed to be an expansion, and it was proposed in 2008. The Obama administration dragged their heels on it for years. Hillary Clinton, when she was Secretary of State, was ready to approve it. Prime Minister Harper put on a charm offensive with Washington. I remember being there in Washington as he stood there with Obama, and he said, I think this is a no-brainer. Obama wouldn't commit one way or another. And then towards the end of his time in office, he canceled it in 2015, after Harper was out, but when Trudeau was in. And then you had Donald Trump approve it in 2017, then Joe Biden kill it when he's elected. But most of the Canadian line had been built. Pumping stations, the pipeline had been buried, 36-inch pipeline. Well, a proposal has gone into the Montana Board of Environmental Quality, I believe is the name, looking to have a pipeline that would go from Phillips County, Montana, through Montana and Wyoming to Cheyenne, and then connect with existing pipeline infrastructure. It would be about 1,000 kilometers long of new pipeline. It's not being proposed by TransCanada, which was the original proponent of Keystone. They've spun off their ownership of Keystone to a company called Southbow, one of their subsidiaries. It's an American company that owns a lot of pipeline in the States, a company called Bridger. And their plan is to put this pipeline along mostly existing rights of way where pipelines already exist. And the reason that's important, Adrian, is you get approvals faster, construction timelines are quickened. So it's not exactly the same project, but it's one that would achieve the same goal: 550,000 barrels a day of Canadian oil heading down through this new project that would resurrect, what do they call it, a dead steel infrastructure that's already built. It would allow the Canadian side to come to life, and it would connect to a new American pipeline.
It's an interesting approach to it, Lori. Not only good for the Canadian economy, but certainly helping us finally get our product to market. But there is something going on in the United States too with the new. Environmental Protection Agency commissioner. He's approving things quicker, faster, more efficiently, and getting a lot of these projects to beyond ribbon cutting to actual digging and drilling and things like that. So that is beneficial as well, as these permits go through the state of Montana. But the, more broadly speaking, what are the benefits of this for Canada without the Carney government actually having to spend any political capital on this?
Well, look, and my cat Ninja has made a guest appearance, so I'm just holding him. Um, Anything that expedites the process. I mean, forgetting in Canada, we are, I don't know, I can't remember, but very close. Fourth largest producer of oil, fifth largest producer of natural gas. And yet there's been some action on this file, but still the vast majority of it sold to the Americans at a discount because they've been our only major customer. So anything that gets oil moving and is a sign that the federal government has the political will to accommodate that process, whether it's Keystone, whether it's expanding an oil pipeline to BC so we can get our stuff to global markets, particularly Asia in that case. But ideally by now, if our economic policy had been sane, we would have pipelines to Tidewater in BC. Like we have one, we'd have multiple ones, and we'd have pipelines to the Atlantic, to the East Coast to deal with Europe. But we don't have that. And one of the reasons is that the two provinces that are on the coast, BC and Quebec, have this, politically, this thing that oil's bad, natural gas is bad, revenues are bad, even though polls show that most Canadians logically say, well, if we have all these resources and they're landlocked in Alberta and Saskatchewan, we should get them to our coast as much as possible. The East Coast Newfoundland has major oil reserves. So, and Brian made a good point. A lot of these pipelines where people are, where the environmentalists who will use the court system, who will put up groups as indigenous groups, many of whom are actually just environmental groups. There certainly are sincere indigenous groups, and they have every reason to want to participate in this wealth because it crosses their land. Nothing wrong with that. But this constant thing that oil and natural gas are somehow evil, it's nonsense. And I was going to say, as Brian pointed out, a lot of these pipelines being proposed are along the lines of existing pipelines.
Mm-hmm.
It's putting in another pipeline where there's a pipeline. And it's astounded me for years because I've written a lot about climate change policies and this is a treasure of wealth to pay for better health care, to pay for better social services for Canadians, to help build more housing, from revenue, we're blessed with these great natural resources. And we just, I don't understand it. I just don't understand how for the last decade, we've had a liberal government that looks at cashing in on our resources, as every other country in the world does,
Mm-hmm.
as some kind of original sin. And in terms of climate change, made this point before. You want to help lower greenhouse gas emissions? Send our liquefied natural gas all over the world. Have it replace coal-fired electricity.
Australia's doing that, Lorrie. I
Yep.
don't know if you saw, but Australia is shipping liquefied natural gas to New Brunswick.
Yep.
A shipment is on its way from Australia to New Brunswick. Instead of taking natural gas from Canada, we're liquefying it, shipping it from Australia. By the way, New Brunswick has its own natural gas resources that it will not extricate.
Yeah, they and so you just sit there and you go. We also have can-do technology, nuclear technology, very safe,
Right.
no emissions from from, and yet we don't. Not saying Canadians don't, because I think Canadians get this, but this liberal government, right from the time Trudeau said initially, well, we got to keep all this stuff in the ground. That's basically what he said. Everybody blew up. And then he went, I said it badly. And then he said, no nation that had our resources would keep it all in the ground. Well, if that's liberal policy, could we start getting more of it out of the ground so we can raise revenues, so we can maintain our social safety net?
That's right.
Might be an idea.
On the nuclear plants, Brian, at least the province of Ontario is building and developing that aspect of it. But I think a lot of Canadians don't realize what we're importing and what we have in the ground here and the cost of that. And then at the same time, sitting on this gold, so to speak, and not doing anything about it.
Well, what makes me hopeful is that the Prime Minister Carney, raised the issue of bringing back Keystone XL when he was at the White House in October. We know that. And we know from Reuters that he was aware that South Bow was looking at this proposal of partnering with an American group when he raised it with Trump. So that's all good. The other good part is we know that Trump is open to approving Keystone XL. And because of the way this is being structured, it could be done, bim, bam, boom, and done before the Democrats get in again and cancel it. Because whenever the Democrats do get in, and eventually they will get in again, they'll try and cancel things like this. So hopefully that gets happening. But none of this takes away from the memorandum of understanding between Alberta and the federal government. Remember, that was not about getting Keystone XL resurrected. It was about a pipeline to Tidewater. And specifically from the MOU, I will read you. Canada confirms that it will enable the export of bitumen from a strategic deepwater port to Asian markets. That's the key. As Lorrie was talking earlier, too reliant on the US. This Keystone XL, being resurrected doesn't change that. It's still good. It's still bringing revenue. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith said the other day that she supports this idea. But the MOU still says strategic to Asian markets, a strategic deepwater port. So whether that is BC's West Coast, whether it's going up through the Mackenzie Valley to the Arctic, whether that is to Churchill, all these options are on the table and being looked at seriously. The federal government is going to back this one way or another. That's a good thing. They're also going to expand Trans Mountain by 300 to 400,000 barrels a day of capacity. These are all good things that will bring in revenue for all the issues that Lorrie mentioned. And then on the nuclear side, yes, bring in small nuclear reactors, expand Darlington and Pickering and Bruce, the backbone of Ontario's electricity sector. Put the small modular reactors in northern communities that, where we can't get it doesn't make sense to put transmission lines that far away. Put in the SMRs and get them off diesel. I mean, most Canadians wouldn't believe how many communities run on diesel in this country.
Well, if we truly want to extricate ourselves from the US being our #1 trading partner, the way to do that is extricating our natural resources and sending it around the world. Well, let us know what you think in the comments below. Like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel and go to the torontosun.com. You'll find commentary and coverage there you will not find anywhere else.